What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about this little feller, the Smith & Wesson EZ9. So let's talk about it. Alright, so in short, what we're going to be talking about, like I just said, the Smith & Wesson EZ9, a smaller, we'll talk about that, 9mm pistol. It's got some specific features that I like, some specific features that for me, I may not use this for certain applications, but for other people, it makes this gun a way better option than other ones out there. So we're going to talk about all that. I'm not going to get super crazy into details of this and that and a whole bunch of stuff. You know me, that's not really my style of what I'm doing. I'm just going to go over my personal thoughts on this firearm, who it might be really good for, and just some pros and cons of it, okay? And then hopefully we'll actually be able to get out and shoot it, whether that be in this video or another video. I don't know, but we're going to do that one way or the other, all right? So here we go. All right, so the EZ9, I don't remember exactly when this guy came out. Again, we're starting out strong, not knowing information, but that's cool. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I do know that it was marketed towards either people who have like a weaker hand, like women, and I hate to say it and start out a video like that, but people who have a harder time, not just women, there's a lot of guys that can't do it either, or a lot of younger shooters, right, that have a harder time charging the weapon, right? Pulling the slide back, okay? I'm not being derogatory at all. I'm just putting it out there. That's my understanding of it, okay? Because a lot of guns, such as, stand by, a lot of guns, like this Glock 19, they can be a little hard to pull back, right? When you get a Glock 19 or a full-size pistol, or most pistols, right? A lot of them out there, they can be relatively hard to pull back. And this one even has a red dot on it, so that makes it a lot easier. Something you can pull back on, get a hold of. But the pressure it takes to pull the slide back and to charge the gun, it can be a little off-putting to some people, okay? For me, I've done it, I don't know how many times, too many to count really. It's fine, I'm used to it, it's fine. It's not like I'm gonna try to do it with two fingers all the time, but I mean, I can. There are some people who can't or aren't used to that. So new shooters and people who have maybe some kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? The fine motor skill kind of things. Like maybe they got arthritis in their hands or something. There are legitimate reasons they have a hard time pulling back the slide on a full-size, normal, quote-unquote, firearm, okay? Put that guy off to the side over there. But the EZ9, it is made specifically to have a lighter weight, right? It takes less pressure or less force, or however you want to say it, to pull the slide back. That's why it's an EZ. That's its crowning thing. That's what sets this gun apart from a lot of these other guns, is that it is easy to slide it back, okay? I remember when they first came out with this, they came out with 380s, right? I am not a fan of 380s. The only ones that I've ever really shot was a Bursa Thunder, and it's kind of cool, it is what it is, but it's 380. I don't know, I have no use for that. And then my sister-in-law, she doesn't have it anymore, I don't think. I think they got rid of it. That LCP 9 or whatever it was, LCP 380, that thing was a hand cannon. I feel like they made that thing to be able to always have on you, but they didn't ever expect you to shoot it, because when you go to shoot that thing, it felt like the thing was gonna jump out of your hand and like bite you. Like, I don't like those guns. Most 380 guns that I've fired, they're terrible. I don't like them. So whenever they came out with this fella right here, but in 380, I was like, great, another 380. Maybe you can pull the slide back easier, but it's gonna like stinking try to kill you. Not really, okay? Some people really like it, but I don't like 380. But when they came out with the 9mm version of this, I kind of got excited. In a way, like for me personally, like I said, I don't have a problem racking the slide on a regular firearm, quote unquote regular firearm. I don't have a problem with that. But I know like my wife, she didn't like, you know, some of the bigger guns that, you know, it was a little harder to pull back. I got her a Shield, right? Remember that back in the day, a Shield? I had that. I don't have that anymore, but that thing was, that was stiff. That was very stiff. And it intentionally got it for her because it was thinner, it'd be easier to carry. She didn't like it, she never carried it, whatever. So I ended up getting her a Glock 42, which is a 380, and we ended up getting rid of that because I did not like that. That was a bad idea. Of all the 380s, that probably was the best one to get at the time. We didn't have this guy at the time, okay? Anyway, we get lots of rabbit trails here. I should start a rabbit sanctuary or something. Anyway, moving on. So this guy's claim to fame is being easier to pull back. I have shot it a couple times, and I can say that it does shoot relatively well, like for any firearm. I'm not saying it has more. I don't recall any significant more or less recoil out of the firearm. I would think it would have more recoil because that slide is allowed to reciprocate faster, right? But I don't recall it being like, oh, this is real snappy. No, because it has a larger slide than a lot of those other smaller framed 380s, so it has more mass. So that kind of helps balance everything out a little bit. You do have like a full-size grip, right? My pinky's not hanging off the side. For me, it's perfect, it's right there. The magazines that come with it, I believe it comes with 2 of these, the 8-round magazines, and I don't know, they might make them, but I don't know of any extensions that anybody has, all right? Or like folks like Shield Arms that made the magazines, like this guy, for the 43x 48 and guns like that they basically re-engineered the magazines to hold more rounds. I don't know anybody that's done that for the EZ, so you're pretty much stuck with these 8-round magazines. But again, it kind of goes down to people. You can see their intention and design of making this easy to load. It has these little wings on the side right here, which make it easy to pull down. Kind of reminiscent to a lot of 22s that are out there. To where you can pull down the follower and load the rounds in from the top, and you don't have to do the normal thing where you have to push the round down, push the next round in, push the round down again, and your thumbs get fatigued. Especially for people who are buying this, the market for this is people who don't have either the strength or the dexterity, if I can say my words. It's not made for those people. It's made for people who have a harder time with that. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So that is cool. That does make sense why it's thinner. It's a single stack, not a double stack, and they're able to do that. So anyway, let's pull y'all in a little bit closer. We'll take a look at just a simple breakdown of the firearm, how to take it apart, to clean it, and all that kind of stuff. It's actually very simple. And I was surprised by one thing whenever I opened this gun up for the first time. I was like, oh, we'll talk about it. So let's pull you on in real close, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. All right, before we get all into the details of everything, let's talk about the simple things, because probably more people that are gonna watch this video are maybe people that are wanting to look into getting one of these. So knowing how to operate this firearm is pretty simple. It does have a beaver tail safety on the back, meaning you have to grip, right? You have to grip the pistol and defeat that. You have to push that forward, right? Use these big words like defeat, but you basically have to push that forward for the firearm to be able to go off. That's your safety. Some of these have an external safety right here on the side, like a 1911. You see that little, that piece that comes out the side that you can flip up and down. This does not have that, this particular model. They do have one that has that, but you already have a grip safety back here, okay? To clear the firearm, you have a magazine release right here. You're gonna push that button. Magazine's gonna come out. You're gonna make sure you keep your finger straight off the trigger. You're going to pull back on the slide, which is very easy. You can push up on this button right here, your magazine, or not your magazine, your slide lock. When you pull the slide back, so you can pull the slide back, push that lever up, and it will hold the slide back for you. At that point, you look down on the inside, you make sure there's no magazine inserted into the firearm. You're gonna look down into the chamber, and you're gonna look for an empty chamber. If you look for brass, that can be confusing at times because you can be like, oh, there's brass, I'm good. No, you're trying to clear the firearm, so you look and make sure and look for an empty chamber. If there's an empty chamber, there's an empty magazine well, then you can let this slide go forward. To take apart the firearm, let's say you're gonna wanna clean it after you get done shooting. It's pretty simple. You lock the slide back, so you pull the slide to the rear and you push up on that lever. You have this big old thingy-mabopper right here. You pull it down, right? This little lever. See how that pulls down? Once that's pulled down, you can, I wouldn't just pull the slide lock down, but I would catch, you're gonna hold the slide to keep it from flying off, but you're gonna hold the slide, you're gonna push down on that slide lock or slide release, and the whole slide should come forward, okay? If you just drop it, you might shoot your slide across the room. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but it's not really a safe thing necessarily to do. If you're cleaning the firearm, that's all you need to do for the lower, okay? So this is your frame, this is your lower, this is actually your firearm, this piece is not actually the firearm. But if this is down like this, then you can take whatever cleaning solution you have. I'm not a name brand advocate for anybody. I really don't care. You could use motor oil. You just really want some kind of a lubricant on the metal. You get an old toothbrush, scrub that stuff out. You can use brake parts cleaner. You can use all kinds of stuff to strip out the nasty carbon and whatnot. But if you use stuff like brake parts cleaner, you're going to want to make sure you put some kind of lubrication back into the firearm, okay? You don't need everything to be sopping wet. You'll mess stuff up that way. You'll get it all bogged down and get gummed up and stuff. But you need a little bit of lubrication. But that's all you would have to do for this, guys. Just brush it out with a brush, make sure there's no dirt, grime, junk in there, and then put a little bit of lubrication back on it. Going on to the slide itself, it's just like most any other striker fire. We'll say that this is not necessarily a striker fire. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's just like most any of them where you have a captured spring. I believe it's captured. Watch me prove myself wrong. Yes, it's captured. Captured meaning this spring is not going to come off of this guide rod, right? This rod in the middle, the spring's not going to come off. As you can see, this guy is, he's got flats on both sides, right? Those flats go to the side. What I'm talking about is in here, right? The flats are flat like this, not flat across the top. They're flat to the side. If that makes any sense, kudos to you. But to pull it out, you push back on the spring, you lift up, and you let the spring come out. To pull your barrel out, you're gonna go forward just a hair and come out and up. And then pretty much the same thing you did on the frame when you clean it. Spray some lubrication in there, brake parts cleaner, whatever you want to use like that. It really doesn't matter to me. And you get your old toothbrush, you just scrub everything in there. You're going to want to pay special close attention to the breech right here and to your extractor. Your extractor is this piece, well, the claw that you see. Hopefully you can see it in here. Right there. The claw right there. You're going to want to make sure that there's nothing underneath that claw, right? No carbon buildup underneath there. You're going to want to clean that out really, really well. And just a toothbrush and making sure that there's no gummed up material or residue that builds up in there. That's really your main thing. Other than that, scrub it out, wipe it off, make sure there's not a whole bunch of junk and grime. You can tell this gun has not been fired. It's very clean. The barrel's the same kind of way. If you have one of those bore snakes, it's the best thing to do. They're like 10 bucks. They're not expensive. Run that through a couple times. Make sure that your feed ramp, the shiny part right here, it's not getting a bunch of built up carbon or anything on it. Just wipe that off, clean that off, and it should be good to go. Put the firearm back together. It's the exact same thing, but in reverse, where you take your barrel and you easily drop it in. If you try to force stuff, sometimes these things catch. But you just drop it in the front and you let it work itself, right? Sometimes if you put it in at an angle, you're gonna be like, oh, it's not going in. Well, you just need to back off a little bit. Slide goes through that front hole right up here, right? And really all you need to do is push it forward. It's gonna drop down, you push it back, and it's gonna drop down into place. Don't force anything. It's gonna go by itself, okay? You just need to be nice and gentle with it. Again, talking about those flats, hopefully you can see that. The flats go on the sides, not on the top and bottom. You're going to take, see how this side is flat. You see that? This side is flat. This side is more like a stopper, basically. It's round, okay? That round small part is gonna go in the front of the slide. You're gonna push it in, flats to the side. Before I do that, do you see down here on the barrel itself, right? There's a little cutout right there that's kind of rounded. That is where your guide rod, this rounded part, is gonna go, okay? So, small little dimple part goes in the front, flats go to the side, rounded parts go up and down. Make sure that it's in there. Once it's in there, this guy's good to go. We're gonna put it back on the slide here in just a second, but before we do, I just wanna mention one thing. One thing that sets this guy apart that was interesting to me is that it is not a true striker fire. It actually does have a hammer, okay? I'm going to push down on this beaver tail right here. You can see how that moves stuff on the inside, right? So that's the safety working. So I'm going to push that down. I'm going to pull the trigger and catch the hammer. That is your hammer right there. So when you pull the trigger, this hammer, right, this is back. When you pull the trigger, I'm gonna catch it so I don't hurt anything. It's going to come up and that's going to ride inside this big old cutout channel in here. And you can see that shiny spot right back there in the back. Maybe you can see it right down in there, right? That is the back of your hammer, right? So that, or the back of your firing pin, that's what the hammer is gonna strike. So pull the hammer back, make sure it's locked in place. Make sure if you have your guide rod on here a little weird, the firearm's not going to go back together very well. So make sure it is pushed all the way down into that little cutout on the barrel. All right. Make sure that this little takedown lever is down all the way. Once all that's good, before you do that, the main things to oil, to make sure you oil, are these rails. You got 4 rails, right? These rails right here ride on the inside of the slide. That's the main part where you need a little bit of oil. So take a drop of oil on each one of those before you put the gun back together. But to put it together, you simply line up those rails, right, and the inside of the slide. This right here is actually your ejector. This little pin that sticks out, that's your ejector. You kind of need a, I mean, if you put the slide on cattywampus, it's not going to go. So you just kind of easily, remember, be easy with the firearm. Don't force it. You don't want to break anything, but kind of wiggle it and it'll kind of get into place. As you come back further, you're going to come back and you're going to basically push all the way back, and you're going to lock the slide open like you're clearing the firearms. You're going to push all the way back. You're going to lock the slide with that slide lock. Then you're going to put that lever back where it needs to go. You're going to put it in the up position, and then you're going to let the slide go back. You're going to want to make sure everything went on properly. You can rack it a couple times. You want to make sure you point the firearm in a safe direction. Make sure there's no ammunition anywhere near what's going on. You should do that in the first place anyway. But to function check, you're going to rack the slide. You're going to push down on the grip safety. You're going to pull the trigger. You should hear a click. Keep the trigger depressed. You'll pull the slide to the back again. Let it go. You should release. You should hear and or feel the trigger reset and pull the trigger again. That's just making sure everything is cycling properly. Another thing to do is to keep your finger off the trigger, rack the slide, do not depress the grip safety, and pull the trigger. Nothing should happen, okay? If you push the grip safety, pull the trigger, now it would go off, all right?
All right, so trigger pull. This is something that I wanted to just look at real quick. As you can see, the EZ9 pulls right around 5 pounds. That's my Wheeler trigger pull scale, and every time it was pretty much right around the 5 pound, which is just, that's standard. And again, this is a brand new gun. That might break in and be better over time. I'm not sure, but that's pretty much what it was weighing at. I pull up a Glock here in just a second, and it was doing pretty much the same thing with right around a 5, and I think I have like a 6 pound pull in here somewhere. I tried to do them all consistently and everything. That's why I think a sample group of 3 on each one of them, but right around 5 to 6 pounds. So nothing to write home about. Not a hair trigger by any means. Not a super heavy pull trigger by any means. And just one note on the triggers as well. A Glock trigger is going to have that little trigger shoe, or whatever they want to call it, that little trigger safety. The EZ9 does not have that. It's more of a standard flat-based trigger. Another interesting thing that I thought was interesting was just to kind of actually weigh the pull weight on the slide itself, and my scale only goes up to 8 pounds, and as you can see, I can almost get it back with that 8 pounds. So I'm going to say its pull weight, the slide, is right around 9 to 10 pounds. Whereas on the Glock that you see here, it is, I mean, it's probably more like 15 pounds by the time it's said and done. It barely even moves, completely maxed out on my scale, right? So that time it didn't even move, and then this time you can see it start to pull back a little bit, but it's not pulled back all the way. It's not anywhere near being able to be pulled back. So it does work. It does pull back easier than a Glock.
Alrighty guys, so there you go. That is a quick little look at the EZ9. The one thing that took me off guard really about this was the action, right? It's not a traditional striker fire like a regular Glock. It's not like that, right? It's not also, it's a lot more, it's pretty much, it's a single action. Pretty much. When you pull the trigger on this guy, right, the only thing you're doing is releasing the hammer. That's all you're doing. On a striker fire, you're compressing the spring, and then you're releasing the striker. It's a bunch of different kind of stuff. This is not as crisp, I would say, as like, say, a 1911. But this is a brand new gun. This has never really been shot as far as I know. I mean, my hands aren't even dirty from field stripping this thing. So over time, I would imagine that trigger would loosen up a little bit and become maybe a little bit crisper. But even right now, it is not a dirty, nasty trigger. It's a pretty good trigger for what it is, all right? It's pretty light, which again goes back to the market that this thing was made. All right, guys, there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that. I really did enjoy that, shooting this guy. I thought it was pretty good. And that's pretty much it, because I'm going to do the rest of this video on the range, and I'm not gonna do the wrap up before I shoot it. Ha! Because that would be cheating. I'm not gonna do that. I just realized that I didn't have the microphone on earlier, so I'm sorry. We had some issues with the front sight, right? It was pushed over a little bit to one side. And if you can see out there on the, I doubt you can see, because this thing doesn't really zoom. It is a nice camera, but it's not made for zooming necessarily. Yeah, you can kind of see on the big white target, you can see my group is way over to the left, right? So it's a group, but it's way over to the left. So we're gonna try to shoot that again. After we fix it, we're gonna pretty much be center mass, just below the chin. We'll aim right below the chin, all right? And we'll just do a group. Try to see if we can get a group. Here we go. Well, that group is still super low, and in like the same spot, which doesn't make any sense. We need to move that side a lot more. All right, here we go. Third time's a charm. Aim right at his chin. We really moved that front sight over. You see that front sight? It's way over, but drastic. I'm just gonna see how much that makes a difference. Right at the chin, let's see. Well, so we're just like a foot low. Why is it so low? Huh. Can't tell if I'll get that guy or not. 2 headshots when it counts. Yeah, 2 headshots. But it shoots about 6 inches low. At least 6 inches low. If I'm aiming at the top of his head, then I'm hitting him in the mouth. Alright, so there's not a whole lot that I can do to correct a height issue. Right? Let me go back out. Try this again. If it's fully loaded, it's in there. Yeah, it's easy to slide that back, okay? So let's shoot at some of these targets that are over here. How far out can we see? Yeah, you can see him. There's a little bitty, see at the tip of my gun? A little bitty guy there. We'll try him in just a second. Let's just get warmed up a little bit. I want to say I hit it. Yeah, okay, so he does. You can hit stuff. Yeah. So it's working. It's working. It's, this is not made to be some kind of competition gun necessarily, but I mean, no, this is working. This is working perfectly fine. And I will say, this ammunition, this 124 grain stuff, I don't believe it's the most accurate stuff in the world. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I just can't really shoot. But it just seems to have a wider tolerance, as it were. Like, whenever the stuff's made, it's just not like the most, I don't know, it's just not the most accurate stuff. And it wasn't made to be the most accurate stuff. Yeah, that's easy to rack. That's easy to rack. And you do have a loaded chamber indicator. See right here? Pops up a little bit right there. You do have a loaded chamber indicator. All right, let's swing some of this tree real quick. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Ha! Easy. Get it? Pretty easy. Sorry. No, but that slide, half the point of this whole gun is that it is easy to manipulate, it's easy to use, and it is. I will say that it is that is very easy, very, very easy. All right, let's do 3 more shots. We're not gonna stay out here all day and shoot stuff. Let's do 3 shots on the head because it's a smaller target, and so far I have been able to hit it. We'll try to go. I'll aim right at the top of the head, so as fine point as I can get it. Just 3 shots. All right, let's go check that out real quick, and then we'll do the wrap up. All right, so here we go. This is where we were shooting at the beginning, kind of a group over here. We adjusted the sights a little bit. Still, the group was kind of over here. We really pushed the sights over, I mean, way to the other side. If you can see on here, like we really pushed that sight over this way. It was way over here. We ended up pulling it way over this way. And it ended up working. It brought the point of impact and point of aim a lot closer together. It's still like a full span, is that right? It's like from I'm aiming up here, right, and I'm hitting down here, so like 6 inches or however long that is. I think that is a span, almost a span. Anyway, so it is shooting low. For whatever reason, it is shooting low, and I'm not going to say that's me flinching. I do flinch. I'm still working on all that stuff. I'm not a perfect shooter by any stretch of the imagination, obviously. But it's consistently shooting low. Consistency is what I'm looking at, consistency, because if it's consistent, then you probably can fix it, to a degree. Now, these sights on this gun are not adjustable, right? As far as I can tell, you can't adjust them. You can adjust them for windage, right? Or no, yeah, for windage, but not for elevation, right? So I can adjust them left and right to get the 0 in line like this. But up and down, there's no adjustment on here. Like if you had adjustable rear sights, then you could, you know, elevate or lower it, and I could bring that back in a lot better. But these don't have those kind of sights, okay? The last 3 shots are right in here. If you can see, they're right in here. We're aiming right here, so we're still like a good, that was a little bit tighter aiming. I don't know. We're still like, whatever that is, 5 inches, almost 6 inches low, okay? But if you do remember, we were shooting at some of these other targets out here. Even that little, you can see him over there? Yeah, the little guy over there, the little pink guy. That thing's barely the size, I mean, it's just bigger than the size of my hand. Basically the size of this guy right here. And we're shooting him from way back here. So it does work, right? You can hit what you're shooting at. The whole point of this firearm is like a self-defense kind of thing. As far as I know, this is not made for competition stuff. Maybe it is. And if it is, then you just need to get some better sights for it. Anyway, guys, let's wrap it up real quick back here and get you all on your way. All right, guys, so I think I missed a couple little things. Let's hit that real quick. With the Shield, okay, Shield EZ, I am not going to profess to know every in and out and little bitty thing about it, okay? I only had it for a relatively short amount of time, and I've only had one other Shield. It was a Shield, but one other Smith & Wesson, right? And not to say that they're all different and everything, or they're all the same, but that doesn't even make any sense, so I'm going to stop. All right, guys, a couple quick little notes. I'm not going to profess to know all the ins and outs of the Smith & Wesson series, especially this gun, the Shield EZ. It's a little bit different than the Shield, the regular Shield that I used to have a long time ago. A little bit different in several different areas, but the main thing I'm talking about is the sights. Okay, I know the sights on the Shield, right? Not this gun, not the EZ, but the Shield were a pain in the butt to adjust the rear sight. It was a pain in the butt, okay? These sights on the EZ9, it did appear to have a large screw that was adjustable from the inside of the slide for like on the underside, inside the slide, right? I'm not exactly sure if you could adjust it if you just locked the slide to the rear or if you had to take the slide completely off. And I know that there was a reason. I don't remember exactly what it was right now at the time. It's been a while since I shot that video. But I know that there was a reason I didn't adjust the rear sight for windage when I was having that issue of it shooting way left. After looking at some of this footage and editing the footage, I noticed the rear sight, and I'll try to throw in a picture here. The rear sight was pushed over, I think it was pushed over to the left, which if it was pushed over to the left, I can't remember if that would throw the rounds to the left. I can't remember. I always get it messed up. I just have to do the little finger thing. But anyway, it was pushed over all the way. It wasn't zeroed out. So all that being said, I'm sure that there was a way to adjust the rear sight versus adjusting the front sight, which I would prefer to adjust the rear sight. I may have just not had my Allen wrenches or not had the tools with me at the time, or I may not have noticed it. Again, I'm not 100% like super familiar. This is kind of a first looks for me. Not first looks. I looked at the gun a little bit, but first time really getting out and shooting it, right? Like hands-on time to look at it and shoot it. This is my first time doing all that with that gun. Okay, I know that just sounds like excuses, but it is what it is. Another thing with the front sight, it's a dot front sight, okay? And after talking to my my buddy Matt, the guy that owns the range, it's his range, but after talking to him for a little bit about the gun, he reminded me, brain fart, that sometimes, depending on the gun, whether it be a SIG, I think there's a couple different ones, but basically what I'm talking about is the point of impact. Some will lollipop, right? So you line your front sight or all your sights up, right? And your impact will be right on top. So just like a lollipop, just like look at a lollipop, it's gonna be right on top of your front sight. Some of them, it's gonna split, right? Depending on where the gun's zeroed, but your impact's gonna split that front sight, right? So right where the front sight is, it's gonna be right in line with that, if that makes any sense. Sometimes, which I think is the case with the Shield, is your impact, right, is going to be like in the dot, right? So if you line your three sights up, your front sight and your two rear sights, you line them up, and that dot is right in the middle of that front sight, that's where your impact's gonna be. So technically you won't be able to see your bullseye. You'll cover up your bullseye with your front sight. I think that's what the case is here, because that makes a lot of sense. 4 inches to 6 inches or something like that at about, 17 yards, that main target we were shooting at, that makes sense to actually cover it up, because I'm shooting and I'm aiming using the top of the front sight, and it's impacting pretty much where that dot is. So I think that's the thing. So it's just, you got to know your gun, right? I'm used to shooting Glocks where you basically lollipop it. You line your 3 sights, right? And your impact should be right on top of your front sight post. It's not the same thing with all guns. So know your guns, know what they do, know how they're supposed to be zeroed and everything. I'm 99% sure that's what the problem was there. So, all right, so hopefully that helps somebody. And if anybody out there has one of these guns, right, that knows this information and you can confirm this information, then throw it down there in the comments, because I'm interested to know if that's what the issue is. And if there's some secret special tool you're supposed to have, or some special way you're supposed to adjust those rear sights, again, if you have one of these guns and you know, I'm learning along just like everybody else, okay? So I want to know what's up with that rear sight. Is there a specific way you're supposed to adjust it, or is it just as simple as an Allen key that you loosen up that screw, adjust your sight, and you're good to go? I bet that's what it is, and for whatever reason, again, brain fart, I just didn't do it at the time, all right? But if someone knows, I want to know, all right? Alrighty guys, so the Shield EZ9, what do I think about it? I think it's a good gun. I would be totally fine, minus one caveat, totally fine like giving this to my wife to carry, because for people who, whether it be it's really cold so you lose some dexterity in your hand, being able to charge that weapon a little bit easier, people who have a harder time grabbing things, right, arthritis and stuff like that, different things like that, neurological kind of stuff, things that can compromise your fine motor skills, right? Those kind of people, this would really shine for that. I'm not saying weak people, right? Even children. I will say that. Even children, this would be a good gun to start them out, to learn how to operate a firearm properly, which is actually, it can help them. It could save their life, because if they know how to do it properly, then they're not going to pick up a gun and be fidgeting with it, not knowing what they're doing, and accidentally shoot themselves. All right, that's actually something to consider there. But for a training for younger people or people who have a harder time with their fine motor skills, this would be a great gun. Even for me, I wouldn't carry it personally for like a personal protection gun, because I carry a gun of a pretty much equivalent size that's all jazzed out. I mean, you look at these guys side by side. Yes, the EZ9 is a little bit smaller, just barely, but I also have a threaded barrel on this guy. And I mean, other than that, these guys are very, very close, relatively the same size, but I carry 15 rounds, right? Whereas this guy, that's my only downside. This guy, the EZ9, only carries 8 in a single stack magazine. And I don't see anybody else out there making aftermarket magazines for these, okay? I guess it might go down to, if you did have those double stack magazines, it would be harder to load, and then that would kind of make this gun not work so well, because if the magazines are hard to load and you can't load the magazines but you can charge the gun, well, it just doesn't work, right? They both have to be easy, right? They both have to be easy to load. So I understand why they did that, okay? That's why for me personally, no, I stick with my 48. But for this gun, for people like that need this kind of gun, I have no problem with it. Again, I only fired like barely a box of ammunition out of this thing. So long-term wise, what would this guy, how well did he hold up? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I can tell you it's a Smith & Wesson. I had a Shield for the longest time. The only reason I got rid of it is because I carry a 48 and I wasn't shooting enough, and I just wanted to trade that off for something else. They had no fault. The gun operated perfectly fine, right? If you really want to get nitty gritty about it, I blew up a Glock 27, right? I blew up the recoil spring on a stock Glock 27, right? A Glock. So I have had catastrophic failures with my Glock that I have not had in a Shield, in a Smith & Wesson Shield that I used to take surfing so I could shoot sharks if they ever tried to kill me. Okay, so it's totally exposed to salt water, all cretted out and everything, still operated just fine. That speaks to the reliability, dependability of Smith & Wesson. Okay, so that being said, I have no problem saying, yeah, this is a good gun for now, for what I see. Until like someday somebody comes out and says, oh, there's actually some messed up thing about it, which I don't foresee anything like that. So for what it is, I really like it. Anyway, guys, if you have any questions about this, please let me know. I'll try to answer your questions. This is not my firearm. I'm not going to have access to this gun after this video, pretty much. So the information that I have on it is just my short-term personal experience with it, and then whatever else you can find on the internet. So I may not be able to answer like, well, does it fit this holster? Does it do that? Well, I don't know. If I know, it's because I looked it up on the internet. All right. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Y'all be good to be safe. Appreciate you watching and everything. I really do. Y'all are awesome people. You know who you are. Patreons, y'all are really cool people. Keep doing what you're doing. All right. Y'all take care, and hopefully we'll catch y'all in the next video.